Everyone, today we are going to start our new video in the new series about the most important SQL tool, which consider as advanced store procedure. Store procedure, in this series, we are targeting for people who are beginner or even for a while you are using SQL. The series will take you from a beginner level to an expert and show you a real life cases that BI developer and BI architect use to automate the ETL tool using the store procedure and how they move the data between the different layer in their business framework and their data model using the store procedure. What is the importance of store procedure? How we can to use the store procedure also and to create like try and catch and error transactions. It's really advanced topic, but we will start from the scratch, and over the next 20 video, we will explain in details how you can use it in real life. One like questions that raised by uh, newcomer for SQL is usually what is the difference between the function and the store procedure, because sometimes it could be a little confusing. So the first topic for today, what is the difference between function and store procedure in SQL? We will show that quickly, and then we will go deep dive in a store procedure, when to use the store procedure, and why to use the store procedure. Then we will, as always, we will make our hard and dirty, and we will store procedure example, and we will write the example and as usual description. So what is the SQL function? Function in any object-oriented programming you are using like Java, Python, whatever, and even in SQL, you have a predefined function. Predefined function like sum, like length, like round, like get date. This is all in SQL a predefined function. Some developer have written that, and you are using this function. Today, we will show you how you can use your own function to achieve target that you want to achieve. And you can, on the right-hand side, you can see that the function take an input, then you execute the logic, and you have an output. Why we use the function? Function is one of the most important, or we can say it helps you to write a clean code because you can always use the function. So for example, we have here an example called FullName. So you are doing a concatenation between the first name, last name. So if you have colleague in your work, they are using the same database and they can use this function, they will use the function every time they want to do this concatenation without need to write the statement, you know. And by this way, you will be able to save time, make a code more clean, and if there is some functionality change, okay, once you change it in the function, it will be reflected. So when you are defining the function and you putting your execute part, for example, let's say that I have a very good real example that from work, that if you are defining, let's say, a group of people or a fleet, and the end user decided to increase the number of like fleet or the number of people in this function. You will not, and you and your colleague team use this function in writing code. You will not need to open each and every code and redefine this code. But once you change it in the function and the function that you define, it will be automatic reflect in the whole child tables that you wrote and child codes that you wrote. And this is one of the most powerful use for the function. Then what is a store procedure? A store procedure on other side is a block of SQL code that's stored in database. You need to call it to perform the action. It's very tricky. You need to call it. Please don't forget, this is very important part. In the function, you don't need to call. You just use the function name, you put the parameter, and you go. And you can even use it in the select statement, which is very powerful for the function. Store procedure, you cannot call it in the select statement. You will need to do execution if you are using Microsoft SQL, or for example, in Snowflake, we are using a call function. But why it's powerful? It helps you to automate, clean the old record. So you can put the full script and then you run it. And then once you call it every time, it will do the same procedure. But why this is important? We can use different tools that allow us to do scheduling. For example, in a Snowflake, you can create tasks. In Microsoft, you can use also creating a task scheduler. And by this way, you will be able, for example, on a daily basis, run this cleaning automatic. You can use it for insert errors in log. You can use try and catch to catch the error, which consider like really very powerful for the store procedure. It helps you to move the data between the different layers. So if I have the data in staging layer and I want to move it in our data vault model in our row level data, we will need to put a store procedure that will do that kind of movement, especially if we want to do it on a regular basis, or we add a trigger. We say, okay, when that trigger happened, when this event happened, when this email received, when this value came to our database, we will trigger that procedure to start. We will go in details in next videos on this all. On the right hand side, same, you have an example that show you what is the component. You have first the input, you create the procedure exactly similar to the function, but with a procedure, and then you execute. This is here very exclusive because in Microsoft SQL, you need to execute. In Snowflake, you need to call, and then you get your output. What is the component of store procedure? You can create the store procedure. For flexibility, you can alter the store procedure and you can update the logic, and then you can drop the store procedure when you really don't need it anymore. So let's jump to the last part, and the last part today, which is like comparison between the function and store procedure. You can see here that the function is returning a value or a table, but store procedure can also more return 0, 1, or even create many results. Store procedure, for example, we can use for CDC, like for incremental data that we do the insert every time in the tables, and it keep inserting the historical data. Change data capture. So if you insert, update, or delete, so if the data modified, we can also always capture it by store procedure. This is called CDC. On other side, you not have this kind of facility in function. Function, you just use it in select statement to call functions that you stored before, that you define some parameter, and you execute this based on what you stored. You have the transaction control. What mean transaction? If you go to the bank and you are doing like many operation, like you withdraw money, you add money, you need to use something called transaction. You put the whole stuff in something called transaction. It's like consider it as a package, okay? And we say for the store procedure, commit transaction, it starts by commit. So if John take money from the account, withdraws the 10 euro, but what if a bill go out at the same time from John account? So it should have a commit. Otherwise, maybe John account will be negative at the same time, or it will be a different balance. So we use the transaction. It have more than one element. It either committed, like already we commit, it means we do the transaction, or it rolled back, it canceled the old transaction. So that by this way, the bank makes sure that the data available, it's 100% accurate. How we can do that? With a store procedure. There will be a big video about the transaction and we explain it in detail. Then it accept parameter as we show in the example, both of them take parameter and both of them accept like logics and loop. You can use it. However, in store procedure, of course, it will be more flexible and we'll show that with example. Let's jump to the practical example for today. And here is our table that we'll use today called employees, as you can see down. And let's start by writing our first function, create. Then you write function. and then you put the full name. So we want to create a full name for employees based on their first name. Okay, we have, you can see the column here, you have first name and you have last name. Okay, don't forget when you are writing function and you want to add parameter, because it's parameter, you need to add the rate. Otherwise, it will not be reflected. And then you need to define the type of the function. So here it's like I will, and then return. So we want what to be returned. We want the full name to be returns. So returns, and of course we will use the same type of data. So let's use the same, but we will just add space. Okay, so 101. And after that, you need to start. So you will say as, then begin your execute. You will execute now your code inside. So begin, then you will add return. And then you will add the same variables that we choose. So we have first name, okay, and we have plus the last name. You will implement a normal concatenation, so you will add plus here. And of course, as we said, because it's a parameter, you need, don't forget the add parentheses, and then in between you want to add the space. So let's add the space together. It's like, okay. And after that, we close the command, and we need to end it, of course. So end, and then we close the function. This is how you create the function. And you now select function to select the full name. We just wrote the name that we created here, and we put the first name and last name, and we call it a full name. And you can see that we had both of them together. Let's go directly to the store procedures. So in the store procedures, you will start with the same, but instead of function, you will create a store procedure directly. So create procedure, or proc, it's the same based on the what you are using, and then get employee. This is the store procedure we were wrote. Okay, it's very simple, very direct. We just want to collect it to create a select statement, and we will put it inside our store procedure. So like use select and then create all from employees. Okay, and then let's close our procedures. So this is the first function that we show, which is create the procedure. Okay, here's that the procedure already created. Let's directly use the second one, which is alter. We will alter this proc, okay, and we use this get employees, okay, and we now need to add a parameter. So we will use add last and then name and equal last parameter last name, and then we use the like function, so like last name, and then we must execute it. If you not execute or you call in a Snowflake your store procedure, it will not run. Even you will see it here programmed, but like you must execute it, otherwise it will not be reflected. Now you can see the Jan Smith employee ID. At the end, let's drop it.